Period. We're going to do a brief meditation. Um, and I'll do an introduction. Most of you know me already. But for the ones who don't, we'll get to know each other a little better. And then we'll do a little talk about consciousness and how to work to develop it in a really practical, effective way. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
And then we'll do a little procedural on how to do a process that I think is really helpful with learning how to be aware more of the time. And then we'll share your experiences. And as we get ready for the workshop aspect of this, where you'll be sharing, the question is, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. That's it. Kick it over there. Not used to getting phone calls. Um, so the question that we'll be contemplating today, and I'll ask you to share about, is once you started to notice that there was a voice in your head, an inner voice, how did you start to work with it? How did you start to get your skill set up to where the voice was helpful? How did you start to work with just the different aspects of the way the voice can kind of interfere with your life? So that's the question. You've realized there's an inner voice, you've got an inner roommate. What happened next? How did you start to work with it? And what did that feel like? And what was the your growth curve around learning the skills around that? So that's what we're doing. So that's the process. We'll do a little meditation now. And the purpose of this brief
Which is
yeah,
very exciting. Yes. Yeah. Good bunch of people.
good morning.
Good morning, Ed.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, Sabrina, you're going to be in Ireland too.
Yes, yes. And you and I
Yes.
are arriving at the same time, 10 o'clock next Thursday. Next
Yes.
Saturday. Next
Next
Saturday. Yes.
Saturday. Yeah.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very.
Where are you flying in from?
Chicago.
Okay.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
met Francis. I had the honor to spend some time with him. He's here with his family.
Very
Oh,
nice.
So,
wonderful. Oh,
first
that's
time.
awesome.
Yeah, after a year and a half of joining the groups and enjoying this process. So we had a few hours to spend before the Cubs and the Sox game and other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't go. I don't go. I don't. I'm not a baseball fan. Yeah.
Fun. Yes, he was at the game yesterday. hmm
Sabrina, do you have Judy's number?
Judith's number?
Judy, she's coming from Seattle, right?
Uh,
Julie, Julie,
Oh,
Judy.
Julie. No, I don't have her
No.
contact
Okay.
info.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Who's Julie? Jill?
Julie, Jill,
There you go.
Jill.
Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Ah,
you don't have
No,
her
I don't have
contact.
hers
Okay.
either. No.
Okay.
But
hello,
she will be
David.
arriving early with us.
How are you doing, David? If you're online, I see you're here. Haven't seen you for a while.
It has been a while. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Oh man, it's so nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing
Good.
well. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me this morning. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy to see you. We need to connect soon. I want to hear how you're doing.
I know. Yeah. Been trying to get up there. A lot going on. All right.
All right. We've got a little group here, and all right, let's do a little guided meditation just to get started. And I expect that people will be joining through the call. So we'll thank you for Sabrina for helping with all this. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So while we kind of let everybody have a nice graceful entry period, we're going to do a brief meditation. Um, and I'll do an introduction. Most of you know me already. And but for the ones who don't, we'll get to know each other a little better. And then we'll do a little talk about consciousness and how to work to develop it in a really practical, effective way. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
And then we'll do a little procedural on how to do a process that I think is really helpful with learning how to be aware more of the time. and then we'll share your experiences. And as we get ready for the workshop aspect of this, where you'll be sharing, the question is, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. That's it. Kick it over there. Not used to getting phone calls. So the question that we'll be contemplating today, and I'll ask you to share about, is once you started to notice that there was a voice in your head, an inner voice, how did you start to work with it? How did you start to get your skill set up to where the voice was helpful? How did you start to work with just the different aspects of the way the voice can kind of interfere with your life? So that's the question. You've realized there's an inner voice, you've got an inner roommate. What happened next? How did you start to work with it? And what did that feel like? And what was your growth curve around learning the skills around that? So that's what we're doing. So that's the process. We'll do a little meditation now. And the purpose of this brief meditation is just to bring you all into this call, to create the space to be together on the same wavelength, if you will, the same purpose. So invite you to close your eyes. Invite you to put your hands in your lap and mentally and emotionally just let go of the outside world and bring your awareness fully inside. Just for a moment, as you turn your awareness inwardly, take a breath and have a moment of gratitude. Have a moment of self-gratitude that you're willing to do this work, that you want to do this work. And now take your awareness and put it on the breath. I'm going to ask you to breathe in through your nose to a count of 4. Follow me. 1, 2, 3, 4. And feel yourself opening and expanding. And release the breath out of the mouth to a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And take another in breath through the nose to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath, opening, keeping that focus inward. And release the breath out of the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with full awareness and full attention, breathe in again through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel that sense of opening and expanding. Feel that sense of inward awareness. Then release the breath out of the mouth to a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're bringing your full attention inward, bringing your full awareness to this next hour and the work that you're doing. Bring the breath in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opening and expanding. And release the breath out of the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And keep the breath moving. Keep the awareness inward and breathe at your own rhythm. And just take a couple minutes to feel the depth and fullness of this moment and your presence in the moment. There are many, many memories and influences and stimulations and attention getting elements in your past, trying to pull your thoughts and awareness away. But gently, just keep bringing your awareness back to this depth that you feel inside yourself. There's many, many thoughts that you could have about the future, what you're going to get done today. Just breathe and relax and be here now with a deep sense of appreciation and love. Keep your attention inward. So thank you for joining the call. You can continue to meditate, or you can open your eyes and come into the call. Eventually, that's what we'll do all together. And my name is TimODavis. And somehow you've gotten this message for me to join us today, and I'm really happy that you did. I lived at the Temple of the Universe for more than 30 years now, and I've been studying and working under Michael A. Singer for that whole time. And this thing that we're about to work on today is one of the first things that I learned from Michael. And he mentioned it in an offhand kind of casual way, that he had this technique that he used in the middle of his work. And at that point, he was building a corporation. And so he was obviously having a lot going on, lots of demand for his time, lots of inputs, lots happening. And so he developed this technique of checking in with himself. And so I started to do that, and I found a version of that and created a technique for myself that worked really well. And in that growth that I discovered from using this technique, it was such an easily trainable, easily adoptable method. And so that's really the point of this call, is to share that with you. Now, at the height of what we're working towards is something called consciousness, and it's awareness of where you are in a given moment, awareness of what's going on in your mind, in your heart. It's awareness of the state that you're in as you're interacting with the world. And so this is a practice that we're developing together, this ability to watch thoughts, watch how our hearts are working, watch how we're processing the events of the day. And here's why this matters, because there's so much in our lives that's beyond our control. Bad things happen to really nice people, and it's not wrong that that happens. It's just the way the world is. We live in a world where there are hurricanes. We live in a world where there are tornadoes, earthquakes, wars, famines, natural disasters. Terrible things are happening all the time. The conditions of your life are not always fully in your control. So we do this work of developing consciousness as a way to watch how we go through these things, have fewer of the ups and downs, have less of the less of our happiness being determined by external things, so that when life does what life does, we're connected, we are present, we are able to process these things and keep our own state. We're able to stay happy even. Now, at the beginning, this is really difficult because there's so many things that we have assigned as needs around our happiness. It might be the love of other people. It might be physical health. It might be having a certain amount of money. There are all these conditions that we've created that are essentially our needs. And there's a teaching that we've had at the temple for a really long time. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. So the work is about seeing those preferences, being okay with them, releasing them, and living with what's actually happening in your life. So when we take on the choice to use consciousness to help us get rid of our preferences, it first pays to have a practice so that we can actually see what our mind is doing. In essence, the preferences that we've built for a whole lifetime and the preferences that we're building daily, the conditions that we've created for our happiness. And within that knowledge, there's also, we learn about how we talk to ourselves, how the mind works kind of below the surface. And consciousness is a way to get there. So when we want to check in on consciousness, it's a practice, it's a habit that we build. And it requires that we go in moment by moment being aware so that we can see what the mind is saying, what the mind is doing. And within that work, you're doing it as an act of love for your being. I want you to contemplate that for a moment. Think about how your life has gone. There have been painful moments, there have been difficult moments, and that if there was a way that you could take a pill and just be done with the pain, that would be the first thing you would do. That would be the stage you would take. And a lot of people adopt this work as a way to defeat pain, as a way to create this sense of consciousness that is mystical and beautiful and has all this kind of pink cloud effect, right? But the truth is, if we do this work with love for the self and love for the process, then those skills and abilities develop. But it's about working with yourself to get there for love for the self, as opposed to seeking the goal of okayness or happiness. That is, our day-to-day mission, our moment-by-moment mission is to know the self, know who you are, learn who the self is, rest in there, and then whatever happens in the world, you will be okay. And at first, this is hard because we think we need so much. But as you follow this continuum, this arc of growth, maybe you've heard of these great Indian mystics and the great meditators who could essentially just go live in a cave and be completely happy and at joy the whole time. So that's kind of the nth degree. That's the highest power of that. We can find places in between where we can be okay in the world, enjoying all the aspects of the world, working through the challenges of the world, and be okay. This is how we learn to be in the world, but not of it. Okay. So I'm going to start talking about the practice. The best possible way to do this technique is to have a morning meditation and an evening meditation, whatever that means for you. We're not talking about that, but you've got this way of setting bookends around your day that provide this kind of support for your spiritual, emotional, mental health state at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. There's lots of ways to meditate. Most of you have those practices in place already. But what I'm going to suggest is a practice to carry you through the day. That is, stress, pain, anxiety tend to accumulate as you go through the day because something will happen at 9 o'clock and you won't be aware of it fully. You won't be conscious. You won't be relaxing around it. It'll build up. And then at 10 o'clock, there's something else. And by the time it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you're exhausted and you feel like you've spent all your energy just trying to keep your nose above the water, right? It takes time to work through that, but with a practice, you can really make incredible headway. And that brings me all the way back to that thing that I told you about with Michael Asinger and Mickey taught early on, which was as he would go through his office, he would note whenever he put his hand on a doorknob, he'd say, I would center myself. He would remember his pole star value. He'd go to God. He put it in different ways, as I recall. That's my memory through the years, but he would recenter. And as he would get into his car, putting his hand on the car door, that would recenter him. That would be a reminder, a cue for him to recenter. And if he picked up his phone, now this is pre-cell phone days, so it's a long time ago, but as he picked up his phone for meetings, for calls, he would refocus and he would recenter, okay? And the purpose of that is that these check-ins do that work that we were talking about. They keep you in this centered state. And there's a teaching, I believe it was Yogananda who said this, that a student asked him, if you do all these practices, you'll become realized. Is there any other way? And the master said, the other way you can do this is to take your attention and put it on the spot between your eyebrows and keep it there nonstop, 24/7, your whole life. And that's such an interesting thing. Just the act of putting your attention here would do that. And the truth is, yes, there's a lot of power behind just habitually checking in. And it really doesn't matter what religion you even look at. Most spiritual traditions have some version of this. So when you meditate, you've got mala beads, right? And it forces you to keep your attention on your mantra, and you've got a physical aspect, but it keeps your full awareness on this practice of counting and meditating. And if you're Catholic, you've got the rosary, right? You do that kind of a practice. Every spiritual tradition has some sort of version of just checking in. And in some places, they do meditations throughout the day. They have a loud gong or a bell, and everybody meditates at different points during the day. So I took that idea and what Mickey said and made a practice that works for the way we live in this modern world, okay? The way we live in this nonstop business-driven, executive-oriented function that we have to live in. So here's how it works. You start the day, you have a meeting, you've got a process, you've got somebody that you're going to meet. Maybe you do it every hour. That's how I like to do it. Like 5 of the hour, you notice, you take a breath and you notice your heart. Okay, what does that mean? You take a breath and you notice the heart. You notice that maybe you're disturbed, maybe you're happy, maybe you have anxiety, maybe you're angry. But you check that state. You notice it's there and you take a breath. And with that acknowledgement that the heart is an emotional state, it's your emotions, it's the mood that you're in. You're acknowledging that it may or may not be in a centered place, but that's okay. Whatever situation it's in, whatever it's going through, it will pass. So you take a breath, you feel the state that your heart's in. I'd like you to do that right now. Like put your energy on your heart right now, your mental awareness. Feel the state of your heart and take a breath and just say, what's there? What's going on in here? That's step 1. Now do the same thing and bring your awareness to your thoughts. Not necessarily what you're thinking about, but the nature of the thoughts. How fast is your mind spinning? What's the process that it's going through? Feel that sense of loopingness. Feel the health of your thoughts. Are your thoughts held with intention? Are they doing a purpose? And take a breath and realize that whatever state your mind is in, whether it's having anxiety, fear, doubt, joy, it's a passing phase, and just to take a deep breath of relaxation around that. And on your third breath, check the state of your day, the next hour, the next few minutes, what's coming up, how do you want to be, what's up next, and take a breath and just relax with whatever it is or whoever it is or whatever is facing you that day. And relax with that. Relax with that sense of purpose that you can do this. Whatever it is that's going to be a challenge for you in the next hour, feel it and open yourself to that challenge. And that's it. This checking in will provide you with a sort of knowledge of how you're working that you don't get without attention and focus and effort. Typically, when we start this practice of checking in, we can start to see what's really happening in our mind and in our heart, and what habits we've developed for how we motivate ourselves, what habits we've developed for how we approve of ourselves, of how we validate ourselves. When you start to check in with these three elements, with these three breaths, it's easy to actually start to see how active the mind is. This is that point of making friends with that inner roommate. This is a great practice for hearing that inner voice. And as we practice it, the part of consciousness that we're developing, that's the whole reason we're here in the first place, is that the witness that we've created with this work is watching those thoughts and energies in the heart take place. We're developing the ability to see the mind do what it does. We're developing the ability to see what the heart does, and not trying to control it, but by just witnessing it. At the end of this talk here in a couple minutes, we're going to open the floor workshop style for you to talk about what has happened to you as if you've gone into practices like these, or you've noticed the inner voice, noticed that inner roommate, and how that relationship has gone for you. As I started doing this practice, I started to see how rough I was with myself, how critical I was with myself. I would call myself names in order to motivate myself. I really treated myself poorly. And the value of this work is to get to see that sense of negativity that's kind of our standard state, resting bitch face, I think some people call it. But you get to see what you're doing regularly with your energy and your mind and your moods. And by opening up to that and seeing them, you can let them go. It's not a case of vanquishing them or beating them or stopping them, but just purely by recognizing them every hour and seeing how they're doing, they have less control over you. It's like if somebody's telling you something that's not true over and over again, you don't have to stop believing them. It just happens. And this check-in is a great way to validate that inner voice and ask yourself, is that helping me? This place of witness that you're developing by checking in gives you the power to accept or let go of what's going on in this inner space. And that's it. This awareness is enough to get started. This awareness is enough to do the work that propels you into space where you're now managing and seeing what you're doing with your mind. That's the work. The happiness, the pain relief, whatever it is that you think that you want from those higher states of consciousness are a product of doing this work. It's a skill. You develop this skill of checking yourself, witnessing the mind, witnessing the heart, and that grows into a deeper state. And you'll find that periods of calmness, openness, or flow that you're getting actually great work done will come more easily and naturally from doing this very basic work. This hourly check-in, these three breaths, are the push-ups, if you will, of spirituality. They're the basic foundational work that open the door for other kinds of growth, other schools of thought, other ways of doing things. We just need a place to start. We need to have an act or a practice that helps us to stay aware more and more, deeper and deeper. And this is a skill set that you can grow, that becomes more powerful for you with time. So that's my story. Mickey brought this up in talks back in the early 90s. And I can remember being incredibly fearful and insecure as I was starting my professional career as a photojournalist, and how if I hadn't done these check-ins, anxiety, fear, doubt, sadness would just run rampant all day. That even with this beautiful work that we do here at the temple, we meet every morning and every evening, and I have such focus on spiritual work just from the group of people that I inhabit space with, I would still, my mind would wander into old, painful, non-productive thought habits. So paying attention to thoughts helped me to weed the garden of my mind. And the first thing to go were the really critical thoughts, the really difficult thoughts. The first things to go were the ways I would beat myself up and the ways that I would complain about other people.
Oh.
So, or if I was heading into a meeting or if I was going into some space, I would see this person and I would watch my mind complain about them and realize that if I'm inwardly complaining prior to a meeting with them, how am I going to ever enter that space with love and openness?
He's lived there for 35 years. He's what? He's lived at the ashram for 35 years.
Let me mute. Let's mute Catherine. Thank you. And so that's what I started to see as I was checking in. The second thing I started to see, lots of complaining, lots of complaining. I was allowing, my mind had built a habit passed on from generations of using complaining even as a conversational tool or a way of relating to the world. And it created a sense of myself being a victim and not being empowered to change the way I think about things and change the way I act on things. And catching the negativity towards self and negativity towards others and complaining, negativity towards life, as I started to witness this layer of energy and thought come up in my heart, I started to see that it just wasn't all true, that if I gave myself the space, that place of consciousness again, to step back and witness what the mind was saying, I could see that it wasn't true. And so it took a while, and I started to catch the negativity and I would breathe around it. I wouldn't yell back at the source of that negativity. I wouldn't try to shut it up, but I would just let it say its thing. I would hear it and realize that it wasn't really truthful, or it was an incredibly limited viewpoint of my whole life situation or my whole work situation. And so the second thing that happened was that if I did see something that was legitimately negative and a problem, I could take a breath around it using these practices, these tools, and open my vision to say, yes, this is a problem. I can deal with this. All these other things are happening too. The sun is rising. The birds are singing. It's a beautiful world out there. And this one little aspect of it should not be overpowering my whole state of perception and make me think that I deserve to be sad or unhappy or even depressed. So this developing consciousness through this hourly checking in is an amazingly powerful tool. And the benefit starts really slowly. As you start to build the habit, you'll just start to see glimpses of your thoughts and glimpses of energy. You're going to forget to do this. You're going to be so busy that you don't do it. You're going to be so distracted by something that happens in life that it's difficult for you to remember. But you just keep remembering. You remember the next time, you set an alarm, you do the best you can. And this awareness grows. And instead of working towards being happy, you're working towards developing a skill of awareness. And that skill of awareness naturally results in happiness. But the love and the devotion and the energy is about working on the actual way your mind works. It's about taking a breath, seeing what the mind is doing, honoring it, letting it go, and moving on. With consistency, this regular practice will give you a foundation of stability, emotional health, and let you see where your work is. And in a really beautiful way, empower you to do that work. As you see patterns evolve, it can get really messy in there and it can be disturbing. I've had many people tell me that since they started doing this work, there's so many negative thoughts. And the truth is, those negative thoughts have always been there. Those negative thoughts are what have created your life up to now. So when you pause and make an hourly effort to check and breathe and relax, examine the truth of what your thoughts are doing, you can let the universe do the work. You evaluate the truth of the thoughts, you relax, and you move on and you keep going forward. So a couple of things quickly is that I've got a little sheet that I'd be happy to send you. If you put your email address in the chat, then I'll send it out to you, and it's a nice little practice. I'm gonna ask you a question in a moment. We're gonna do this as a workshop, but I'd like you to think about the first time that you heard that voice in your head, that you heard that inner roommate, and what you did with that, what that turned into, and what the process was like for some period of time after that, where you started to work with it, and how, as you became aware of that inner voice, what that meant for you. So please, just a couple of minutes. Keep your sharings, as 2, 3, 4 minutes, just to make time for other people. I'd like to go around, and I'd like to just hear how that went for you. And so yes, that's the source of the sharing. I want to thank you all for coming. I've got some projects rolling out in June that I'm really excited about. And if you also send me your email address, I'll let you know what those are looking like. If you would like to just get the handout and not get any further emails, then just say that in the email, and I'll make sure that we don't put you on an email list. So with that, I want to say thank you all for listening, and you're building a relationship with deeper aspects of yourself, and that is the true source of the knowledge and the wisdom that create happiness. So love this process. It will result in happiness. It's not a pill for happiness. So with that, who would like to share their stories of consciousness, their stories of hearing that inner voice, hearing that inner roommate, and how that felt? Yael, would you mind sharing with us? Raise your hand, please, either physically by waving or putting your hand signal up. But I'm going to start with Yael, if I don't mind. Then Ulrich, we'll get to you in a moment. Okay, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Good morning. Well, the inner voice, the inner roommate. I remember it from very young age, actually. It's a lot of it is not good enoughness. And I remember the techniques I've developed to shove the voice, whether it would be an overdoing, not at the age of 4 or 5, but maybe that I don't remember. But a lot of it was overdoing, over pleasing, over achieving, overreaching physically, energetically, a lot of over. And then I would go into the disappearance act, like didn't know how to deal with that exhaustion, mental, emotion, and physical, and go into disappearance of just disappearing, not being in touch with people. That's in a time where I wasn't aware of this voice. Really, I mean, not aware of how to deal with the voice, that it's actually a voice. I believe that this is who I was.
So as you became aware, what was the first thing that you started to do? First productive thing you started to do.
The first productive thing I started to do was actually listening to it and understanding it's. Meditation really helped me, in movement and walks, but awareness, walks with awareness, movement with awareness. feeling my body,
Mm, mm.
really being in my body, listening to the mind. I've been doing this work for over 22 years. So for those of you who just started, hang in there.
So yeah,
It's not.
forgive me. I want to make sure we get time for everybody. But the thing I want to point out, like what you said was once you became aware, I'm getting the sense that you listened to it. Like you said that, right?
I listened to it. I was aware of it actually. That
Yeah.
oh, it's in my head. It's like I create this voice. Actually, it's the voice I create. Nobody else
Yes.
creates it. So I'm the movie. I'm the director. I'm the script writer. I'm the cameraman. I'm the seats. I'm the projector. I'm the movie venue. I'm everything.
Yeah.
So I can undo it,
Yes.
and so it's all me. It's all about, it's not like it's you as a blame, like, oh, okay, so if I create it, I can uncreate it.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like that's the thing. Like when the masters talk about self-awareness or self-realization, the thing that you just said, Yael, is that you realize this is you, the self, and that now you can work on it. It's not the outside world that's going to change, that's going to make you happy. It's not anybody's going to say anything that's going to validate you or make, no one's going to send you this magic wad of love that's going to make you feel complete.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And the other thing that was really interesting is like, it feels like some people, when they feel this, they work in order to drown out, or they do things to kind of crowd out that voice. Or there's another way you just kind of shrink underneath it and just kind of get beaten down by it. So these are things that you get to learn. So thank you so much. Ulrich, speaking of the movies.
Hi there, voice from Copenhagen, Denmark. I was thinking that I feel there was an intention that came before the words. And when I was a child, when I remember I started playing with the words, it became two stories, and I felt a little ashamed of it. I kind of instinctively knew that I was playing with something that was not really the truth, but was really funny. But
Hmm.
and then I started developing into a tool to create identity. And I knew that it was wrong to work with this identity, but I also felt it was a very strong tool, actually. You know, I could grab people's attention, I could make them laugh, it became, and and then I later on in my life realized that there was this voice inside my head, and then I was the one listening to the voice, and I didn't know who was the real me. And at some point, I came to the fact that I must be the one that was listening to that voice, and but it's very hard for me to maintain that level of consciousness because I always find it very interesting to find out what is behind that, you know. So my voice continue talking in my head, and I even sometimes feel it's a little shameful. But I
Hmm.
think it's interesting. Oh, my point was that I like to get more in contact with the intention behind the words, that we as human beings or more beings like ourselves for 200,000 years ago, we didn't have a language, we didn't have the words, but
Yeah.
we still had a life, you know, we were still here. So the word came quite late
Yeah.
in our life. So we have been having intentions before we had words.
That's beautiful. I really love what you just said. And my I've had the same experiences. That's the energy or the emotions or the mood. I search for words because everybody relates to their heart in a different way. And for some people, the heart's a really mysterious space that's hard to even quantify. But that's the origination for thoughts. That's the origination for all we do. And I love the point that you made that yes, before there were words, there was consciousness, there were souls. And even in your own lives, it's the same thing that you were born and you were conscious the first time you saw yourself in the mirror or began to gain awareness, you may not have even learned any words yet. You may have been before language. So your being, your soul, your consciousness is wrapped up inside this human and it can do anything it wants. But getting to the heart is really the source of what drives the words and what drives the ego, what drives all this behavior. And this process of checking the heart and the mind help to connect them and free them at the same time because they are so that heart energy that Ulrich mentioned is what's really powering the thoughts. That's the battery behind that light. Thank you so much. Byron, how are you doing today? When did you hear the voice and what happened to you? What was that experience like?
Uh, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon in Ulrich's case, I guess, wherever your time zone is. Yeah, I kind of came in late, Tim. I couldn't get in because I didn't have a passcode for
Oh,
something for the
crap.
Zoom call. But let me see if I can get up to speed here. The voice, I can just only relate one of the biggest things I have learned about myself and since I started coming to the temple was that I'm going to say maybe I'm the only one who does it. I doubt that. We take just the smallest fragment of information about other people and we create this narrative about people. I automatically do it. Maybe partly because I'm a writer, I don't know. But I just take things just little bits and pieces, and I just connect all the dots and make a story. And probably very little of it is ever true or ever appropriate. But I've learned that I do that. And so the voice tells me, just focus on your own stuff and you're going to be a whole lot better off.
Hmm.
And so don't just make up these stories about people.
So apologies to those. I think I might have made a mistake in how I sent the invitations out and there was a code or something. But anyway, I'll be doing this again next month and I'll get that ironed out.
Okay.
The so yes, the as we learn to watch our thoughts and we check in with ourselves, I found that was incredibly valuable when I was talking to another person. And I can remember specifically realizing that I wasn't really listening to them. That my mind was literally run. I could feel my mind making shit up at the same
Yeah.
time they were talking.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't fully in the moment with them at all.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was a moment of surrender that let me say, okay, I'm afraid that if I don't have my thoughts in order, I'm going to appear stupid. But I'm going to surrender and I'm going to say, okay, I'd rather appear stupid and speak from authenticity and listen fully. And that changed everything for me. So I started
Yeah.
to be able to listen a lot better. But that's a powerful moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you, Byron. Hi, Andrea.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Hi, Tim. I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Yeah,
great.
that's
Thank you.
awesome. So I don't really remember the first time I heard that voice besides Mickey's direction in his book when he's like, tell yourself hello, hello, like in
Yeah.
your mind, right? And then it was like, holy crap, what the hell is this? But then I started realizing that the judgment that would come up, just like what Byron was saying, like you have limited amount of information and
Yeah.
then you're putting it together and you're creating this narrative inside of you about this person, and majority of it's not true, and it's the judgment. So it wasn't until a couple of years later where I started to really unpack some of that with just my daily practices of where is this coming from?
Hmm.
Where is this judgment coming from? And a lot of it is reflected of something that's within us that we don't want to look at.
Hmm.
So when I do come across that judgment, I'm like, okay, this is good because this is just showing me where I need to do more work.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I also look at it holistically too. What have I been pulling in from all my five senses?
Hmm.
From my sight, my hearing, touch, smell, taste, because all of that affects our mind. So and the awareness is not always there, right? Because you get distracted with the day-to-day stuff, you get
Mhm.
lost in all your shit. But there's moments where there's such deep reflection where it's, what am I pulling in from my five senses,
Yeah.
right? Am I using my multi senses? And a lot of times when we move away from that is when we get lost.
So I love everything about this. And a thing I would like you talked about like a really real beautiful progression there. You said Mickey said make a whatever he said, like notice there's a thought, like make a ship in your head. What's the one he typically uses, right? And you say, oh my God, this is happening in my head. And you said, and a couple years later, you started to like see that there was other sensory inputs happening, right? Touch, taste, smell, all the different things that are influencing the way your mind creates reality, right? But like that time in between is where the skills happen, right? That's like the real power. And you can't just go like, oh, Mickey says there, I can do this in my head to that other state that you got to. Like it takes practice and loving effort. It's like you got to play the chords. You got to learn how to dribble the ball so you can play basketball. To lovingly give yourself the time and the space and the the ability to be not good at something and just evolve and grow and become really skilled at that. That's a huge part of this. I love that arc of growth that you just described.
Yeah, and there's been moments where it just felt like, oh my gosh, everything's just falling apart, and it felt like crap.
Yeah.
You know, but those are the moments when the magic is happening in the background, where it's yes, it's falling apart, but it's all coming together at the same time. So it's just recognizing that and being
Yeah.
having that self-compassion,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like there's times when you just have these incredible peak moments of complete connection with life, universe, the energy. And then there's exactly the opposite moments where it just falls away, and you just, everything's shitty. The whole world sucks. And you'll learn how to be comfortable in both situations. That's really where we're headed, right?
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Catherine from England, how are you doing?
Ah, yeah. Hello, everybody. Um, yeah, I'm doing good today, thank you. I don't really have a lot to add. Um,
Do you remember the first
I don't.
time that you started to watch
Yeah,
thoughts?
no, I really don't. I live very much day to day. I really don't remember. I'm very much at the moment in the now, which is good, and I have just been listening to it endlessly today.
Hmm.
And that's been great because and I'm at the stage where I'm hearing it, I'm looking at myself and thinking, well, that's not very nice, and that's not very nice, and you thought that about that person, and so yeah, so I'm, although I've been doing work for a long time, it's only in the last, months since I've been read, The Untethered Soul, that the real, it's clicking into place. So
Hmm.
I'm really appreciating everybody's suggestions and hope, but also just increasingly, I can see myself moving through stages and yeah, being more conscious. But I haven't got, I don't have memories of, oh my gosh, yes, you know.
Well,
I did just
that
think about the ship one and the boat one. I did think about that because I was thinking, well, it's different. I can picture a ship, but consciously the feelings in my heart, that feels um or even feelings, you can make yourself feel sad, but you've got to think something to make yourself feel sad. So
hmm,
the consciousness of my heart feels very different to the consciousness of being able to, the roommate is very different.
hmm, hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a
No,
side.
that's beautiful. I love the fact that you're noticing, right? You said you watched sort of just a plethora of different kinds of thoughts come through.
Yeah.
And so this practice is about taking a breath. Like once you start to see them, like I started breathing on the hour just as a way to remember, to catch thoughts. But then if I had almost like weather is the best metaphor. Like sometimes a storm cloud will come through and just all of the thoughts will happen at once and it has all the lightning and the thunder and the whole thing. When I would feel that sort of range of thinking, like so obviously it would be like panic or anxiety or just some work thing that came up. My ability to like what grew was just the ability to check in and just see that it was passing, right? And so can you see that like when these things come up, like they're just like in an hour, it may not be there, right?
Absolutely, because I've had an incident today where something happened, made me feel very sad and down, but then I was able to, as you say, step back, l- separate myself from it, and and I can, yeah, it's passing, whereas it would have maybe put me sad for weeks. So yeah, it's great,
So
but maybe not so much on topic. But
no, that's exactly what I'm talking about. No, that's precisely the point of all this, because that moment that you had completely and beautifully illustrates the whole process. Because, like you said, that could have turned into not just like a blip of down and then back. It starts a dive, right? And then
yeah,
something else comes up. The next thing you know, your mental part, like Ulrich said, your heart, like sort of the underlying energy of all this, even if you're not sort of able to put a finger on that heart space that you're talking about, as you do this enough, you start to see patterns in just your energy, like your energy level, like how sort of, sprightly you feel in that moment and how like positive you feel. And all that starts to like become part of your understanding. And that builds over time. And that's really why this practice, or any practice, like the power and beauty of practice is to execute it over time and watch how you change within it. So I'm offering, this breathing thing as just a thing. But every religion, every spiritual tradition, every psychologist, everybody's got something to do, but it should lead to you understanding yourself better and then being your own therapist, being your own guru, being your own teacher, right? That's really the point of all this. So that point that you talked about is incredibly powerful. Like when you start to
it is. And
notice.
I think the intention one is really powerful because it's not even just, yes, you feel it, you think, yeah, you think it, look at it. But then the attention is a slight action, isn't it? The whole body can move. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I should.
So the intention thing, if I could just talk about that quickly. So I would use that if I was at work and I was going to have a meeting with somebody and maybe I wasn't prepared or maybe they were a difficult person. I would take that moment to say, if I can do this, get this one thing done in that meeting, then I will have moved ahead. I will have made the world slightly better, done our corporate mission, whatever my dharma was as a leader in that moment, I would have carried it forward. However, in a non-work situation, I'm coming home from work and maybe I had a shitty day and I'm about to see my wife and I want to bring my best self to my beautiful wife. If I'm carrying all this pent-up energy, emotion, and anxiety, when I show up at home, I'm not going to be the guy I want to be. So that intention would turn into, I'm going to be available for my wife. I'm going to actually do like Byron said, I'm going to listen. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be connected. I'm going to take a breath and realize that if I don't consciously, mindfully choose to be present with my wife right now, I'm just going to be riding through the same consciousness that I've carried all day long that put me in this mood in the first place, right? So that moment where you can say, I'm going to listen, and you literally just take a breath and say, hi, honey, how was your day? And then you just take a breath and relax and open your ears and be like, that changes everything. It changes the scope of your relationship, the way you come across, the energy you bring home, and how that evolves for both of you together. So that last step really is important. Just to
That's conscious living, isn't it then? Conscious
yes,
living. It's great. Yeah.
yes. All right.
Thank you.
If I may, just one more person. Anita, how are you doing?
Good morning. So I lived in my heart and my mind my whole life until I read. I think the first book of Michael Singer's I read was Living Untethered. Until I read that, and then I realized that I do have that in a roommate, and I found it very interesting, and it actually gave me power to think that there might be another way to live. And I've been doing your practice, your breath work practice. I try to do it every hour. I have a little alarm that goes off, and sometimes I'm in the middle of something, and I'll think to myself, "Well, I'll do that as soon as I finish this," and then it gets forgotten, and I don't until it goes off again in another hour. Um, so that I find that very helpful, very helpful. And what it also has done is allow me to, when I notice I'm getting caught up in thoughts, I'll
Mm,
just breathe. And then it kind of stops me from being caught up in the thoughts.
mm.
So the breath work is, I found really important, really helpful for me.
God, beautiful. Thank you so much. Having been at the temple for so long and heard, on the Monday nights and Thursday nights, we have a QA session after Mickey's talk. And so much of the time, the question is essentially, how do I make these thoughts go away? And it's like, well, don't do that. Those thoughts are speaking and saying things. These emotions, these energies are coming up for a reason. There is a part of you that believes fully that what it's telling you is important and necessary and needs to be dealt with right now, right? And there can easily be another aspect of your being that's fighting with that, saying, no, don't say that. If you say that, they're going to see blood. There's all this turmoil coming. And the way to stop the turmoil isn't to try to stop it, but it's just to listen. It's almost like if you're in a band of like 5 or 6 3-year-olds and they're just squabbling, give everybody a chance to talk and the energy will settle down. And now you can create a positive, constructive interaction. And it's the same as you work inside. You just kind of take energy away from all that and let it settle. Now you can start to see what's there and work more intentionally. Well, that's the time that we have today. I just want to thank you all for joining, and I want especially thank you for Sabrina Pereira for helping me with this and encouraging me. All of you have encouraged me greatly, and I really, really appreciate that. I will be doing another one of these in June, and I'll have some more things to offer, and I'll keep posting stuff to Frances O'Connor, beautiful Frances O'Connor's Facebook group. And I want to just thank you all, invite you to have a beautiful day. And I'll send out these little worksheets. And in a month, let's see what happens. Let's see where we go. All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Tim.
Thank you so much, Tim and
All
Sabrina.
right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye,
Good day,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.